to episode 40 from the Shed End podcast with myself, Haydar. And as always, I'm joined by Theo, who's obviously in a much better place than I am right now. So how are you doing, Theo?
Yeah, I'm enjoying my holiday and the location. Didn't really enjoy the game on Saturday, unfortunately. It made my weekend and my holidays, bit of a bad start here, but otherwise, I can't complain, enjoying the sunshine out here in Dubai, and it's nice to escape London for a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously looks amazing. You got the sun. Just to let you know, it's raining, windy. There's a new storm on the way for when you get
I'm
back.
pleased to hear. I'm
We
actually
had the
enjoying
storm on Saturday.
Yeah, I like hearing that because honestly, it just makes me even more happy to be out here.
Yeah, I was talking about the storm at the London City Stadium at the weekend. But before we get into that, let's talk about the competition that you've set up on Instagram as well.
Yeah.
2,000 followers. I mentioned it on our sort of preview that we did on YouTube last week, but just talk to listeners about that. What can they win? What do they need to do?
Yeah, so we finally reached 2,000 followers on Instagram. For me, it's a pretty impressive milestone because we only started this podcast, I think, back in April, which is when we started the Instagram page as well. So to reach, that amount of followers in that short amount of time, I think I'm really pleased with it. And obviously, huge thank you for your support and all your following and every comment, every reshare that you guys you give us on Instagram. It does mean a lot. And just to say a little bit of a thank you, we've got a match day program from the Chelsea Juventus game, a few weeks ago when we won 4-0. And we're giving that away to one of our followers. And if you want to enter the competition, make sure you find a post on Instagram. We'll probably link it in the bio here. But make sure you like that post. You follow us on Instagram from the Shed End with underscores between each of the words. And make sure you tag 2 friends in the comments. So a lot of people are liking the post, but not tagging a friend. So make sure you tag those 2 friends in the comments.
Yeah, I noticed that. So you've got to tag the friends to be in it to win it. If you don't, you're exempt from the final draw, which takes place in a few weeks. I believe it's a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, might try to extend it to maybe the New Year's, but yeah, we'll announce the winner probably closer to the New Year's Eve.
Yeah, cool. And obviously, you can follow us, as always, on our socials, which will be in the description below, and also on YouTube. So like and subscribe, comment, all of that stuff as well. Let us know your thoughts about this episode as well. But let's get into it straight away. Obviously, we've got to talk about, let's talk about our performance against West Ham. Again, I did a bit of a preview before the game. And I said 2-1. I thought we were going to win. I thought we were going to win comfortably. And in some spells, I thought that we did do that. I thought we dominated the game. But just give me your thoughts, Theo, on what kind of was a lacklustrous performance against West Ham.
It was an extremely disappointing performance. I felt like the squad looked fatigued, tired. I actually predicted 1-1 on the app. I felt like, it'd be the type of game they'd taken points off the bigger teams this season, West Ham, especially at home. So I thought it'd be quite a difficult one for us. I would have taken a draw probably before kickoff. But then when the game started and Silva got the opening goal, I thought we could easily win it. But then it was just lapses of concentration, defensive mistakes that kind of cost us the 3 points or even the 2 points, if you want to put it that way. Credit to West Ham, they took their chances. I want to say the first goal was really, really avoidable. It was a mistake by Mendy, a mistake by Jorginho, but I think Mendy should just be clearing his lines. I've played goalkeeper in the past. I just know that when you're in that situation, all you have to do is just clear it. Even putting for a throw in, he had that space to clear it. I think I'm seeing it. We're seeing it a bit more in the last couple of games with Mendy. Maybe the whole second place in the Yashin Trophy Award has gone to his head a bit. Now that he's proved himself for a year at Chelsea, maybe he can allow himself to, get this confidence, which led to that goal. And then a second goal, I think, we should maybe done a better job clearing, get more communication with the back line. And the third goal, what can I say, was just a fluke in a way. He even admitted it on Instagram or Twitter afterwards that he meant to cross it, not to shoot. But yeah, early December, it's kind of a bit annoying to be dropping points like this, especially with Man U the week before. It just feels like if we are going to, it's kind of make or break December. I've said December's make or break. Games like this, if you want to be winning the title or be a serious title contender, you should be at least, winning it or getting the 3 points. So really disappointing Saturday afternoon at the London Stadium.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. I think, it's a shame because obviously we probably saw one of the best goals this season from Mason Mount, and it's been overshadowed from a Chelsea perspective by the result in itself. But I agree with you. I think, I think the midfield was a massive issue for us. I think obviously we've tinkered with that midfield a couple of times now, and due to, you know, forced injuries and reasons that are out of Tuchel's control. But I just think there's 2 games on the bounce. We've seen a poorish performance from Jorginho and Mendy. You know, arguably 2 of our most important players to an extent when you look at the midfield and you look at goalkeepers. I agree with you. You know, you're a goalkeeper. You know, I've played defense before. The first thing and I said this to you during the game, you know, the first thing they tell you, if in doubt, kick it out. It's the first thing they teach you, you know, as a kid. So Rosette, you know, outside the stadium into the car park, if he's got to hit a fan in the face, whatever you've got to do, just get rid of the ball and take a corner or take a throw in and just, you know, regroup as a team. But to see
just the confidence of, or the cockiness, not the confidence, cockiness of Mendy.
Yeah, it's more cockiness than confidence. That's true.
Yeah,
definitely. You know, sometimes you've got to just kick it long. You know, you haven't got to play it out from the back every situation you're in. So it was a poor pass from Jorginho. Don't think we can let him off scot-free. You know, there wasn't enough weight on the pass, but at the same time as well, Mendy's got to just kick it out. I give West Ham their credit. You know, they played really well. You know, I thought there was times where, you know, they made sure they pressed us, especially midfield. They were on top of us for parts of that game. But when you see the mate Thiago Silva, you know, get the goal, the penalty, you're still sort of thinking to yourself, we can still win this. You know, it's 1-1. Mason Mount, you know, obviously amazing goal. It's probably got to be one of the goals of the season. Second goal, I think it's Rudiger and Christensen. There's obviously a mix-up in Rudiger. I don't know what he's trying to do. He almost tries to flick it away, and Christian just isn't too close enough to Bowen to close it down. But the fluke goal for me, yes, it's a fluke from him, but I think Mendy's positioning was awful.
I'd agree. Yeah.
You've got to cover that side of the post before you think about doing anything, and you've got to expect that ball to go in the back of the net rather than for a cross. He was positioned all wrong for me, in my opinion.
But what's funny about that goal is during the Watford game in midweek, I spotted him in a very, very similar position when there was a cross coming in. And, you know, subconsciously, I was thinking to myself, you know, if that goal squeezes in that, if the ball squeezes in that gap, that's a goal. Mendy should be getting nearer to that post and, you know, closer to his line in a way. And then against West Ham, you know, it happened, you know, he made that mistake. And I just feel like maybe he wants to be that goalkeeper at Chelsea that can come out and catch balls from crosses, from corners, and that cost us in a way because he's so focused on that he forgot that, you know, there was at least 2 meters or 3 meters between that front post and him. And it only happens once in a blue moon, I suppose. But when it does happen, it's really embarrassing for a goalkeeper. And I do think had he been one step closer, you know, to his right-hand side, he's not letting that ball go in. So two really avoidable goals, I feel, which is a real shame.
Yeah, and I don't want to bash Mendy too much because everyone's prone to making mistakes during games, and we've seen him pull off some it was only a couple of weeks ago we were talking about him being the best goalkeeper in Europe, if not the world at the moment. So I don't think he can lose that sort of form or that sort of ability overnight. I think it's just a case of, you know, he hasn't, whether, like you said, you know, whether something's gone to his head or whether his mind's slightly elsewhere. I'd imagine Tuchel definitely laid into him at half-time, giving away that penalty so easily. So maybe that was playing on his mind second half as well. But professional footballers haven't got that excuse, that luxury to make those kind of mistakes. At this time in the season as well, games are coming thick and fast. We just can't afford to be dropping points against Burnley, against United, against almost against Watford, if you want to include that. You know, that was a very nervy game to watch. And again, against West Ham as well. So, in my opinion, you know, we'll talk about it later, but against Zenit, but I think I would give him a rest. I'd bring Kepa in just to give his mind, you know, his body, his mind, just a bit of a breather and let him just understand that, you know, you're not number one just for being number one. There is other goalkeepers, Bentinelli and Kepa, that can also come in and do a job and maybe just give him something to think about as well.
I'd have to agree. I think I spoke about fatigue and tiredness in that squad. You often think of, you know, the 10 players other than the goalkeeper when you think of tiredness. But I think goalkeepers as well. And when you make mistakes like that and when you're nominated for so many awards, maybe you just need a small break just to get your feet back on earth and think to yourself, okay, you know, I just need maybe a small break to get back in place. And Kepa's a very talented goalkeeper. we forget how good he's been under Tuchel, and he deserves a chance as well. And maybe dropping him for 1 or 2 games, he may come back and be stronger, because I don't think we've seen the best of Mendy in the last 3-4 games, if I'm completely honest. And I still think he's one of the best keepers in the world, top 3, top 5.
Yeah.
But I do think he needs a break, and I think Zenit's the perfect game tomorrow to give him that break.
Let's just quickly look at the fixtures that we've got, obviously going forward. But we'll mention Zenit slightly later. But in terms of the Premier League, we've got Leeds United at the weekend. We've got a midweek game against Everton. We follow that up with Wolverhampton away, and then we've got the Carabao Cup quarterfinals, Villa on Boxing Day, and then on our final game for December is Brighton at home. So those are, I mean, I'm gonna say the most obvious thing, but they're games that we should be winning. But I probably would have said that against West Ham, albeit that they're 4th in the league, albeit against United, how they were playing at the time that we played them as well. And obviously Burnley, who was sitting, I think, 19th in the league at the time. So you just look at those fixtures now and you think we've really, we're third in the league now. We can't really afford to lose any of those games now for the remaining part of this month.
Yeah. That 1 week after the Leicester victory and the Juventus victory, I was thinking to myself that we should be winning every single fixture in December based on those clubs' forms and our, how we were playing. But now, a couple of weeks later, and things aren't so good for us, I suppose. We're not playing as well as we were a couple of weeks ago. And these teams, particularly Everton, who picked up the 3 points against a decent Arsenal side, Wolves as well, who have looked quite impressive this season. I think those are tricky fixtures, actually. And now with the injuries we have, with our depth slowly kind of looking a bit, more fragile as well. I think it's going to be quite a difficult December. I do expect us to drop more points, in those fixtures that you just listed there. I think Leeds, the next Premier League fixture is a must win. We've dropped 3 points.
It's crazy that it's a must. It's a must win when you talk about Leeds and their form as well. But 100%, I agree with you.
It's a must win. And even Zenit, I kind of do want us to, if we are going to, regain some confidence and some form, I think Champions League is a good opportunity to do that. We saw it last season where we lost in an embarrassing way to West Brom at home. A couple of days later, we'd beat Porto 2-0 in the Champions League. So I think winning against Zenit will be a good, chance for us to bounce back. I think I would like some rotation. There will be some more tiredness in the squad from a long journey to Russia. But yeah, I think Zenit and Leeds, I think we'll just take one game at a time in December. It's the best way to see it. But if we can get, top of the group in the Champions League Group H and then get the 3 points against Leeds, I don't know who Liverpool and City are playing. But I think we should just worry more about ourselves rather than these other teams that, now are above us. I'm actually kind of happy that these teams are above us now, because there was a lot of pressure when we were top and they were breathing down our neck, whereas now we can just focus on almost putting the pressure on them like they were putting the pressure on us. So that's the way I want to see it now. But yeah, 2 must-win games, I want to say.
One noticeable at the weekend was Alonso, who came off with, I think, a back injury, and obviously Thomas Tuchel's got his press conference later on today, which I'm sure he'll confirm. Again, I'm not sure if he was out training in the open training session, but it does beg the question again: have we got enough cover at that sort of left back position? And I know we spoke about it only 2 or 3 episodes ago, in terms of who can play there. Hudson-Odoi might be able to play there. Sal Niguez is another option, but I mean, Hudson-Odoi ended up playing there against West Ham at the end, and I wasn't overly keen, if I'm honest. I don't think he's naturally got the strength to play there. I think he was being muscled off the ball. Obviously, Antonio's a very strong player, to go up against as well. But just even looking at the way his positioning was, and I feel naturally we need someone who can actually play that position and is comfortable playing there. We obviously don't have that in Chilwell. We don't know how long he's going to be out for. But I still think Ian Maatsen, for me, is the answer. Bring him back. The expectation isn't there for him to play, week in, week out in the Premier League. He is obviously going to need to be used potentially to rotate with Alonso, but the expectation isn't going to be there for him all week. And it's a good learning curve for him, I think, to be at a club like Chelsea, the players around him. So what's your thoughts? Has it changed? Because I think you said we necessarily might have enough cover with Aspie, who also can play there as well. But do you think we've still got enough cover?
It's a difficult one. I did think when Chilwell got injury that I had faith in Alonso to do the job for the period that Chilwell would be out for. Seeing how many games we've got and knowing that maybe Alonso might be being forced to play every single one of those games, I'm thinking to myself, he probably will get injured. And like we saw against West Ham, you do pick up these injuries. And if we are to kind of panic and go into January and buy someone, I don't think that's sensible at all. But I think what you just said, I think the sensible option, if we do want someone as backup for Alonso or even Aspi in that position, would be to bring back Ian Maatsen, I think. And as you said, I think it'll be a great learning opportunity, even if he's not playing regularly, but just to train around these quality players and maybe get the odd FA Cup game or even a cup game, you know, if we should go to the semi-finals. So I think that would be a brilliant opportunity for him. So, and I have watched him. I think he played in the League Cup against Grimsby in Lampard's first season. I think he did take part in that game. And he was very impressive, you know, pacey, skillful. I haven't really watched him much at Coventry, but I think he's doing a decent job there. So I think that'd be the most sensible kind of option if we do want that cover for Alonso.
Yeah, I think it's got to be addressed. And I think, you know, Thomas Tuchel also, like I said on the last episode, I think he likes to have enough cover in every area just to cover himself. And I see Alonso, I think that's 2 games now that Alonso has been subbed off. One, I think, was tactical, and obviously West Ham was the injury, I think, to the back. But I agree, you know, it just goes to show that obviously playing that many games in that period, we've got to think about the Club World Cup coming up as well. Ben Chilwell, even if he does come back, I think in you know, end of January, start of February, there's still that sort of level of, you know, rehabilitation, getting back up to speed with the Premier League as well. So for me, it's a no-brainer to bring back Ian Maatsen. I think he's done really well at Coventry. It'd be a shame for Coventry because they're doing really well in the Championship, but you know, we have to be selfish and think about ourselves in that long-term plan of trying to win something this season. So for me, it's a no-brainer to bring him back into the fold. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to, you know, Chilwell might make a miraculous recovery and be back before he's expected. So you know, the next, I think it's 5 or 4 weeks, we'll find out how bad that injury is. But I'm not expecting any good news around Chilwell, if I'm honest. But let's move it to tomorrow's game. Early kickoff, I think it's 5:45. It might be about 7:45 your time, I think.
I think it's later than that. I think it's 9:45 if I'm not mistaken. I'll stay up for it. I'll stay up.
But let's move over to obviously a big game. We're top of the group at the moment. We're playing Zenit St. Petersburg. Big game for us, really. We want to try and top the group and finish on a high. So what's your thoughts going into that game tomorrow? Who would you play? Who would you rest?
Yeah, I put a tweet up. I think on paper we should be beating Zenit, even if we do make those rotations. And I do want to prioritise the Leeds game on Saturday. And if we can come out of this Zenit game with no injuries, that'd be brilliant. So I'd actually give Saul another chance. I know he was awful when he played against Vicarage Road last week, but I think I would give him another chance just to give maybe even Ruben or Jorginho, who looks very, very tired at the moment, Jorginho, a rest. So I played Saul. I played Malang Sarr even potentially. I'll give Ross Barkley a chance. He hasn't featured in a while. I don't think he's played since that Burnley game. And every time he has played this season, he's looked very lively and, you know, he looks like he's got a point to prove. So I would play him. I think I read before we started recording this that Kai Havertz's injury against West Ham was nothing too serious, so he might feature. Although maybe I'd just give him a bit of an extra rest for the weekend, and then maybe I play a Timo Werner or even a Lukaku. I think this is the perfect game for Lukaku to get more minutes under the bank. Maybe 60 minutes, 70 minutes. I think that'd be perfect for him because he hasn't really looked as lively since he's returned from his injury that we'd want him to be. So yeah, I think I'd rotate a bit. I'd even play Kepa. I would play Kepa, like I mentioned before, for those reasons. I think I'd give Mendy a rest and play Kepa. I think I give Silva a rest. I give Reece James a rest. I give a lot of our players a rest. I think. I wouldn't even be surprised if Tuchel maybe even kept some players back in London and didn't make them travel. You know, I think maybe Kai Havertz is one of those players that maybe couldn't travel, but maybe even Mateo Kovacic, who I read is training again, might be one of those players who does travel just to maybe get a couple minutes, you know, to increase his match fitness. But overall, I'd rotate the team heavily.
Yeah, I think it's not the end of the world. And again, I hate saying this, but it's not the end of the world if we don't come out with the victory that we want. Because I think we're currently top of the group, and it always dependent on Malmo versus Juventus as well.
Obviously,
you'd expect them to win, though. You'd expect Juventus to win. Yeah.
You'd expect them to get the 3 points there. So I think, again, we have enough quality regardless of who we play, whether that's Kepa or Mendy in goal. I agree with you. I think Malang Sarr coming in, Ross Barkley, Sal Niguez. Yes, he's been unfortunate in the Premier League, but I think European football is slightly different, and I think it's a brilliant game for him to come into. I think Kovacic didn't train this morning, so it's a big question mark around whether he's actually fully fit to travel. If he is, I'd definitely bring him on, as a sub. But I think Lukaku, you hit the nail on the head. I think he looked very sluggish when he came on against West Ham. That could just be down to the fact he hasn't played football for, X amount of weeks. But it's got to be one of his longest goal droughts now. I can't remember the last time he's gone this long without a goal, not just for Chelsea in terms of, United, Inter, Everton. I can't remember. He's got to be on a 10-game goal drought.
I don't think he's scored since September. Yeah, he hasn't scored since September. Yeah.
I know that's down to injury, of course, but even when he's playing, he doesn't look like he's going to score. He doesn't look like he's interested. Not that he's not interested, but just that he's not in the right places to score the goals, and the pressure will be on him because, we've spent 90 odd million, the expectations there. He's done it in the Premier League before. He scored 20 goals a season before. So he can do it in the Premier League. He's obviously got good numbers in Italy as well. So I think he needs these kind of games to kind of get himself back into the flow of the game, get back into that sort of team mentality and understanding what's expected of him as well. But I agree with you, definitely rest Kai Havertz because I think he's going to be pivotal the next couple of weeks, and we need to sort of wrap him very much like we did with Pulisic, or we tried to do with Pulisic last season and also this season. But we've got to wrap those kind of players in cotton wool because he seems like he's almost a new Pulisic in terms of the injuries that he's picking up. But one person I think we've definitely missed over the last couple of weeks is N'Golo Kante.
Yeah,
yes, we know what he's about. We know that we can play him probably anywhere on the pitch and he'd still do a job. But I just think in midfield, the last couple of games we've watched, if we had Kante in that midfield, even on Saturday, if we had him against West Ham, I honestly don't think it would not be 3-2 by the end of that game.
No, I mean, every time there's a mistake from the defence or some kind of, we lose the ball, you just know Kante would be there to recover, intercept those. So I just feel like he's arguably one of our most important players, and every time he plays well, we almost take it for granted. But it's just slowly getting a bit frustrated with Kante when he does get back to fitness. He plays 2 or 3 games, then he plays that 4th game, and after 10-15 minutes, he comes off. So you just do wonder if he was even fit to start that game in the first place. So maybe it's worth almost giving him an extended rest just to make sure he recovers properly this time before rushing him back into the team. So that's probably, I'm relieved to see that, there's these, I don't know if they're true or not, but Kovacic training or slowly getting back into training, because we do need that Jorginho-Kovacic partnership back soon. And I rather, if Ruben Loftus-Cheek does play, I'd rather see him play higher up the pitch, maybe in that Mason Mount role or that Hudson-Odoi role, or even maybe as a false 9. I would like to see Ruben Loftus-Cheek as a false 9. Should we, struggle more with injuries in that, number 9 position? Because as good as he's been in that central midfield position, I don't think it's his natural position. He did a great job against West Ham. He played his part in the Mason Mount goal, but I think his best position's in that kind of number 10 role or that, central attacking midfield role.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think he's definitely out of those players that were sort of on the fringe of potentially going out on loan. I'd probably say he's the one that's impressed me the most in terms of like a Ross Barkley, even maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi. I think at one point was potentially going to be shipped out on loan, but I think Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been the one that's improved the most for me out of that crop of players. But I think again, this is a very important game for him to come into. Zenit, I mean, obviously they can't qualify now. It's all down to us and Juventus, but they're a tough team to play, and I'd imagine playing that sort of game, going to Russia, having to play over there, and then it's not always going to be easy. We know what it can be like over there. It's a very hostile crowd as well. So
might be is it an artificial surface? I think it's Zenit as well.
I think it is. So again, you've got to factor all that in. You've got to sort of play. I mean, I think it is. I think you're right. I know they do have them quite a lot over there in Russia. So, if it is, you've got to factor all that in as well and adapt to it as well. Just the way that the game's played. So it's going to be interesting. But I mean, look, we're all hoping Malmo can win. I doubt it very much. I think they've only scored 1 goal in the competition so far. But let's move on to the predictions. What's your thoughts on the result for Zenit or for Chelsea?
I think what's good with Chelsea this season is when we do have a really disappointing performance, more often than not, we bounce back straight after. So I think we will win quite confidently, or comfortably, should I say, and I think it'll be 3-1 Chelsea. I think Zenit will get a goal, like for the reasons you mentioned, a bit of tiredness, hostile atmosphere, difficult trips to Russia, but I think we will score. I think we'll look we need to be more clinical, but if we are clinical, we'll get 3 goals, I think. So I think I'll stick with 3-1.
Yeah, I will follow that with a 3-0. I think after the weekend, not just after the weekend, I think you could go back as far as probably Burnley. You think back to then, obviously take away that Juventus game in between there, but I think before that we haven't, and I've said this before on this podcast, we've been winning games, but we're just not, there's another level that we can go to, and I don't think we've reached that over the past couple of weeks. I think we've kind of just got it over the line. We've just, even going back to Watford, we just beat Watford just about. So I think we need to put in a performance which shows not just the fans, but Thomas Tuchel, that there's a fight within the team as well. Like you said, the best way to respond to criticism and a poor performance is to come back and win, in good fashion. So I think we have to go out there and we have to perform. Like I said, for me, I'd start Lukaku and I'd put him in that position because I think those kind of games are made for Lukaku. I think, he needs those kind of games, and depending on who's alongside him or behind him, I think people say that he needs to service, but I think he needs to do a bit more as a number 9 as well. And I think this is sort of a game that we need to see that, yes, he needs to service, but he can do a lot more himself. He doesn't really take players on. I don't really see him do that. He's brilliant holding the ball up, but there needs to be a bit more. If you're going to be a number 9, there's more elements to it for me, in my opinion. So I'd love to see him come in and do that, and then maybe look at starting him against Leeds as well. But I'm going to go 3-0, whether it's Mendy or Kepa. I think I agree. Rest Silva. Christensen looked a bit wobbly against West Ham, but I'd start him. Rudiger maybe as well, or maybe and rest James. I think James as well. So maybe put Aspilicueta there as well. Interesting if he starts Sal Niguez at left back.
Or maybe Aspi as left wing back and Hudson-Odoi as right wing back, potentially.
Mm-hmm. It's an option, but we should be beating them. I think we should be beating them, and obviously we want to try and top the group. I think we can play some good games on the last 16 if we do top the group anyway. And I think I'm sure I read PSG, maybe is it Man City or someone I think we can play as well.
We can't play any English teams, I think, in the round of 16.
Right.
If we top the group, I think there's a chance we could play like Barcelona if they beat Bayern Munich tonight, I think, as it was tomorrow. But there's some good teams. There's a lot. I think all the Portuguese teams have, managed to secure second spot. I think Porto, Atletico, that game tonight will determine who gets that second spot. But there's some decent teams. None of, as I say, nothing's easy in the Champions League. Even Ajax this year looked very, very dangerous. So yeah, a lot of decent teams that we could be facing, first or second.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't really matter whoever we get. We've got to play and beat them anyway. So that's how we won the Champions League last season. No one gave us any credit there. So we've got to do the same this season as well. But yeah, so I'm going to go 3-0. You're going to go 3-1. Yeah, let's just hope we can get sort of out this little rut that we're in. I feel like we're in a rut at the moment in terms of the performances that we're putting out. Yes, we might be winning some of them. You look at Juventus. That's probably been arguably our best game for weeks when you think about the performance, not just the scoreline, in the Liga and the Champions League as well. So I'm looking for a big difference from West Ham, big difference from United, big difference against Burnley. I want to see that Juventus performance again, but we've got to be sort of more on the ball, and the conviction going forward's got to be better. The midfield's got to be better. If it is Mendy, kick it to Rosette. If you've got pressure on you, just kick it into Rosette. Don't be trying to play out from the back because it's not going to work.
I think the Zenit Stadium's quite low as well, so maybe just kick it out of the stadium.
Put it in a car park. Put it onto the motorway or wherever it's got to go. But make sure it's not a penalty. Just make sure you don't give any penalties away. But it's going to be a good game. Obviously, like I said, it's an early kickoff for the UK guys. Obviously, Theo, you'll be up till about 11:45, something like that, watching it. So I'm sure you'll enjoy it nonetheless anyway. But yeah, as Theo mentioned earlier, don't forget to go to our Instagram page at From the Shed End with underscores between each of the words. We are doing a competition. We might look to extend it, as Theo mentioned before. Might even give away a few more things to make it a bit more interesting for the followers. But we do appreciate obviously the 2,000 followers that we've got on there as well. We're close to 500, if not already, on Twitter as well, so you can follow us on there at From the Shed End, all one word. Just search for us and you should be able to find us. And again, YouTube, just search for us, From the Shed End. You should be able to find us. All the links and stuff, all the descriptions, all the competition information will be in the description as well, so you can just click on one of those links and find us. But this has been episode 40 of From the Shed End podcast. Myself, TDOT, and as always, Theo. Enjoy the rest of your holidays, travels, all the rest of it. You're probably in the best place right now if we don't win tomorrow. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your travels and holidays. And obviously you'll be back, hopefully, for the next episode back in cold England.
Fingers crossed, yeah, back this weekend. I wouldn't mind if I get stranded out here, but I will be missing Stamford Bridge if I stay here a bit too long. So yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully you'll be back, and obviously you'll be back as well. So make sure you tune in next week for the next episode. But this has been episode 40 From the Shed End. Thank you for listening.